What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the A Show with the Kings of Pro Wrestling Podcasts. I am Justin, here with Meelz. What's up, Meelz?
I'm chilling, man. I had a good weekend. Even though I never tell the people at work that. How was your weekend? Okay. Um, I don't know why I don't feel like sharing. Um,
Strange, man.
it just is what it is. Um, had a good weekend. Went to SmackDown on Friday at Barclays Center. Um, always. Actually, I don't know. Is it always a great time? This was probably the. Actually,
It
this was
seemed like a
probably
fun
good.
show.
No, this was definitely better than I'd say this year. Both my shows at the Barclays, which included a Raw at the top of the year and then this SmackDown, have been clearly better than probably any Barclays show I've been at for like the last decade. Because New York
Better than NXT?
City, no. MSG gets the shows. MSG is like the legacy. We got to put something in there. DX is making an appearance. Something along those lines. Clearly, we had Randy Orton this week. Um, but it was still a good show. People were very. If I want to give it the collision check, the the house was full. I was on the camera side, so I can vouch that the behind the camera also had people. Um, what else can I vouch for? That I was in like I'm pretty sure. And shout out to I went with Carlos, by the way. So shout out to Carlos.
Shout out Carlos. Shout out to
Yeah,
him.
Rob and Nelson were also there in a suite. So shout out to them. Um, and Armand was also there in a suite. Um, So I'm just I've never my experience is like, yo, I gotta get I need the Bride Bosa hookup. I need the front row by the camera so I can get off all my dances type of
You
energy.
wouldn't dance. You wouldn't even
I
dance.
wouldn't dance, but you would definitely see me like, you would see me. And more so I just want to be ringside. I've never had the experience of ringside. I've never, ever, you know? That's my dream to be ringside,
Yeah.
preferably
Yeah.
at a show where people watch. Because ringside at a house show is like, who knows? It's like, were you there? I mean, um, but I had a great time. Met up with everyone afterwards. We had a good time there. The show was lit. Um, biggest pop, I would say, it was like Cody for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, LA Knight, who came out of nowhere. I was ready to be like, LA Knight's not on this show.
You realize they're keeping him to I was gonna save this for the show reviews, but I'll just give this away now. You realize they're keeping him to like these moments and not actual matches.
Yeah, but it is what it is. We'll keep it to the shout out to Patreon. I also got to shout out some Patrons too, so we'll do that in a bit. But the show was great. Also learned something else. All right, let me ask you this question: when's the last time you were in a McDonald's?
Inside?
Inside a McDonald's?
Shit. Maybe like 2 years ago. Yeah.
We are getting robbed. You're getting robbed blind by whatever app that is servicing you McDonald's.
Yep, I know.
I went inside. So after the show, I didn't eat before the show. I didn't really eat at all. I think I had gummy worms before the show. Um, I didn't eat at the show because Barclays food is nasty and expensive. Um,
Jeez,
but
both?
yeah,
That's a
both.
double threat. Double threat.
I mean, I'm sure some of it tastes good, but like also like $7 water, $17 beers. I don't drink beer, but that's what I heard the price was. Um, but ridiculous amount. They never do you when you go to shows, do they serve you like bottle things or like anything with a cap on it? There's nothing you can't have a cap on any of your drinks at Barclays Center at all. So in case
Mhm.
something spills, it's your fault. It is what it is. I forgot what the reason is behind that,
Or
but
somebody
whatever.
sneezes or some
Yeah,
shit.
something, all this other shit. I was just like, all right, whatever. But so I didn't eat when I was there. So I was like, I know what I'm thinking. I'm gonna get off the train, go right to McDonald's, pick something up. First of all, I went to McDonald's. The register at McDonald's used to have like four registers. There's barely two.
Yeah, I mean they have the automatic. Like 2 years ago, even when I
They got the
went,
kiosk, yes.
they got the kiosks now, and they do that everywhere um that you go now. But yeah, this is
So
so wait, this was like the pinnacle of your weekend. I see why you don't tell anybody about your weekends, because your pinnacle
well,
was
no, this wasn't the pinnacle of my weekend. I'm just letting you know that we're getting robbed. Like this is a continuation of a story that has been living out on the A show thing about how expensive McDonald's was. So
yes.
I'm just continuing the story. I'm sorry if my weekends is not
Finish
lit enough for
finish
you. I
the
mean,
story.
I'm sorry. I mean, what did you do this weekend?
I
Was it
had the
so
flu.
great?
I had the flu, and I
Okay, all
just
right. Sounds amazing. Yeah.
I just so
What,
happy to get better for this show. So there we go.
sure. All right. Well, thank you for making it do what it do for this show. Um but nonetheless, so I woke in and I just realized how all the prices are like $2 less than everything that we get on the app, and I felt really betrayed because I've been ordering stuff from the app for years. I've never walked into a McDonald's, and then I go and I see that everything's way cheaper. So I felt betrayed. Um, and then Saturday I saw the Beyonce doc, and that was an interesting experience. Um, Inspiring, creative, musical. 3 hours long though, so
It's 3 hours.
it's pretty. It's closer to 3 hours than 2.5 hours for sure.
Oh my god.
If you love Beyonce, it's a tour de force. You know, this is like quality. I haven't seen the Taylor Swift doc. I don't indulge in Taylor Swift music, but I feel like I should watch her show.
It's longer than fucking Oppenheimer. Like,
The runtime I think is 2 hours 48 minutes for Renaissance.
I think it's longer than Oppenheimer.
That's crazy. Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is. Oop, doesn't list it. Where does it list it? Oppenheimer
Oppenheimer,
is pretty longer. 181 minutes. So that's actually 3 hours.
yeah, that's 3 hours.
Yeah, Renaissance wasn't. Renaissance was like 20 minutes shy of that.
I was about to say, so it's
Yeah,
closer to. I saw two. I saw Oppenheimer and Flowers of the Killer Moon in theaters, both 3 hour movies. I
at the
felt
same
like
day.
no. But I felt like I felt the 3 hours for Killers of the Flower Moon more than I did for Oppenheimer. Like the 3 hours flew by for Oppenheimer. Killers of the Flower Moon. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. But I felt it like an hour 30 in. I was like, this movie's long.
I felt. I felt the 3 hours. Good lord. I think a couple times to be honest with you, but my audience was. I was very happy to have an audience that was very much we're sitting down and enjoying this movie and
Mm,
not getting up and doing the electric slide like all the other theaters I've seen on TikTok.
that's too much.
Yeah, it's too much. I get the it's Beyonce, but Beyonce's not in the room with us. You can sit down.
She can see
Like
you. That's a cult, bruh. There was
it's
an article about somebody. There was an article with somebody who, um, had gave a negative. Well, not it wasn't even really a negative review of the movie. It was more so like a
questioning
yeah,
her intentions with the
yeah, about
movie at this time about what it's supposed to be targeted about what it's supposed to be about or what it's supposed to
yeah,
represent.
yeah. And I'm not a fan of the writer. She makes some pretty like crazy ass articles. I don't know if you've ever seen any of her other stuff, but
I actually looked up all her other stuff.
crazy, right? This is
Yeah, it was kind of nuts. Yeah.
this is probably the most that I've actually liked one of her pieces in a while, because it and I think even when we talk about like WWE and all these wrestling companies that have statements that are equally empty and more for brand furtherment than
Hmm.
actual message, I think it actually holds true with this. It's like I've long since kind of like looked at a lot of the messaging and being like, okay, like the Lion King thing. I was like, what is this for? You know what I mean? Like is this what's this furthering other than images? You know what I'm saying? And I think that like it's fine to be a brand and have these messages be part of it, but I think that like this is like crazy tangent here, okay? Because this
No,
nigga nasty.
we here.
This nigga's nasty, all right, or he was nasty. You know, to speak of the dead. I
Okay.
compare it to like Michael Jackson, right?
Oh my god.
Where like as much as this nigga was nasty, he at least stood on things and like openly talked about it, like
Right.
war and other places, AIDS, which is something that got brought up in that in our article. He was staunchly, you know, an advocate for you know, the cure for AIDS and HIV and stuff like that. Remember back in the day, people used to think that you could get AIDS from like touching somebody, and Michael Jackson went on like it was a TV show or something and hugged somebody with AIDS, and everybody's like, "Oh my god, he's gonna get it." And it was like no, he was showing people like what it really was like. So like I look at our stars from today where they largely stand for really nothing, and that goes for like the Drakes and all that stuff. And I know like the argument is like, would you really want them to say anything like that? And I'm like, where did we get to the point where that was something that we didn't require? You know what I'm saying? Because like we used to just get it, you know,
Yeah.
like even lesser stars like even KRS-One and you know Public Enemy, they stood for something. They talked about something. Now it's like nobody really stands for anything. And I think that that article spoke to a larger imprint of so like pop culture and social media and stuff like that. And people
Mm.
took it as taking aim at Beyonce the person. It's not really an aim at the person. It's an aim at her brand and it not really standing for anything. And I
Yeah,
look
no, I agree. I agree.
I look
I
at it,
didn't hate the review.
yeah, like it was like I was like, damn, we really used to have pop stars that stood for something, like, and now we really don't. And I think that that article kind of like stopped me in my tracks. Like, wow, like you see something like Lil Yachty saying rap is in a bad place, and people kind of like taking aim at him for it. I was like, okay, yeah, it's Lil Yachty saying it, but at the same time, it's like he at least he's standing on something that no one else is standing on. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's saying
Right.
something
No,
with
let me do you think it's because of society's hyper awareness with certain, like, I agree in a sense. I can see why she doesn't outwardly or staunchly say things because it's
you don't want to
much
lose a bag.
easier. Yeah, it's much easier to be targeted because of that. And usually we've seen people come out their mouth and immediately it's like controversy, talks about this, da, 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 da. So I think she just keeps it, especially if she wants to keep that. It seems like she wants to keep her kids out of it too. She talked about it in the movie. At some point there was Blue performed for the first time on the show. Somehow she was like, somehow she managed to get a wind of social media, which she was staunchly against. Like Beyonce doesn't want her kid to view any social media, which is to me wild. Um,
Also impossible.
like how it's yeah, it's kind of inescapable. And she saw all the negative things about her and stuff like that. But I'm like, I feel like it's sad that thing, but it's also, I think you should know that these things actually exist. But back to the point of like, in terms of like her brand and like speaking for something, I agree in a sense. I feel like it would definitely be. I respect her artistry in a way, and I think who this film and her music and everything is for, those people are satisfied and wholly fulfilled.
Mhm.
But to, I guess, the grander audience, it would be great if she had like more of a voice towards these things, just in general, not even
Let's
if
just
it's
be
like
real.
I'm using my voice for to save the world. It's kind of like just a voice in general. It
Let's
makes
be
it
real. Let's be real. Let's be real. If she said free Palestine, she ain't gonna lose no bags. She's not gonna lose anything for that. She's not gonna lose what like the old girl from the Scream movies lost, because Beyonce's in a stat. Like, if anything, she would start a trend of people doing it and saying it because she has a voice that is Taylor Swift esque, Drake esque to a certain extent. If they all said something about this
hmm
outwardly, it would cause a change and it
it would
would be a
resonate. Yeah,
resonate. Like, she's not gonna lose a bag for saying that. But I also think that it's also like it's reductive to say, why would we expect her to say something like that? I was like, well, because this is the same person who put out, you know, uh, African images for Lion
right,
King.
right. Whose brand seemingly
Transcends. It transcends
yeah,
everything. And I think that, there was a part in the article was just like, she uses queer imagery. She uses, she's a voice for queer people and doesn't speak on, certain things or certain queer issues. It's like, yeah, I mean, that's definitely a thing. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's definitely a thing.
I don't know. I don't know. I feel like we're in the we. I know the Beehive is gonna. Well, they don't listen to shit. They don't like wrestling, but
No, some of them like wrestling, but but I do. I agree with your sentiment. It's definitely like from a like when you compare it to the pop stars back then in terms of say something. I also think society was in a different place where you felt more comfortable saying something. I feel like even people across the board, not even on a Beyonce level, like even down to reality TV, right? Like I was listening to Black Print a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago actually, and you guys talked about the fuck. What did you talk about? It was on a reality show. Someone called someone like
oh, Love and Hip
someone
Hop,
made
Love and
monkey noises. Yeah, monkey
Hip Hop.
noises, which was nuts.
Yeah,
And I remember I wanted to jump through and say like this isn't like most people are at these even reality shows, reality stars are more receptive to that. And I know from following the challenge and stuff like that, like they and even the challenge themselves or reality TV, they don't want any kind of like political or any kind of like stuff like that.
mhm,
Um, but people are generally afraid, I guess, to I mean, not to necessarily like express themselves by making monkey noises, but like express themselves in any kind of way that feels like it could be off-putting to one side or another. Um, so I was surprised when that actually happened because it that felt like a super outlier to me. Not that it was anything like that, but it just felt like an outlier. Like I didn't know people still did that on reality TV, like make
they fed
racial.
into it, and they fed
Yeah,
into it. You know what I mean? They they had a whole thing about it. And you look at what we watch every single week. We saw WWE. There's wrestlers who have anti-vax statements all over the place, outwardly speaking on it. You have an AEW, an anti-Semitic thing that happened. They've never
is it
spoken.
outwardly speaking? Like it's like I feel like we well, some of them are. Some of
Some
them
of
are
them,
like, I'm not afraid to be canceled. You can't cancel me.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
that's
It's
usually
like
when they kind of say it.
it's like it's like the companies themselves don't speak on any types of issues like that, and I think that there's a dissonance there, but they never have. So like, okay,
Right.
fine, they never have.
But I also feel like I wish we were in a state in society where people definitely felt more comfortable speaking about issues. But then I think people are quickly lambasted for not knowing enough, which is definitely critique. It's critical. But I feel like I miss back the time. Like I learned about AIDS from Pedro from the real world.
Right, right,
Like, and they show that in every. I didn't even have cable. They show that in classrooms. You know what I'm saying? They popped in a TV and showed like this gay couple and AIDS and like why, and he was a big advocate for that. And I feel like we don't, like you said, like we don't get that much anymore, just because of I feel like the hyper awareness. People are afraid of being canceled, even though being canceled is not really a real thing until it becomes until you get to a certain point of no return.
yeah,
um but yeah, I will say just kind of largely, I wasn't mad at the review. I was like, oh, okay, I see it from your perspective, but I'm an optimist, so it's kind of weird.
yeah. You are. You actually really do see the. You try to see the good in everyone. Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm telling you, they're going to
I
disappoint.
see. I see both sides. Yeah, I'm too much of an optimist sometimes.
It's okay. You're a good cop. I'm bad cop. I'm fine with that.
I lead with love. So by the way, 20 minutes into this, I had initially on my notes that I was supposed to lead with the A show shirt, A show t-shirts update. Shout out to that. A show t-shirts update. They should be arriving to me very soon. Hopefully sometime this week. Um, I cannot confirm if they'll be out this week because there's another piece of this thing that has not been delivered yet that I'm still waiting for. Um, but just know your shirts are safe and secure with me. And yeah, if you have any more orders, put them in now because I'm about to close up shop relatively soon. um, so yeah, put them in now. And yeah, please, A show, RNC, Big Cartel, or no, it's the A show.bigcartel.com. So um
Also, we got to update everyone that we do have the A list returning.
Absolutely.
List is returning. I'm looking at the dates here for our year-end list. You know, everyone loves those shows as well. Looking like what you thinking,
Some
Meelz? Uh,
sometime next week.
okay, and then our individual list. What 20th, 27th,
I would say our individual lists will probably come the 19th and the 20th. Well, sorry. I'm thinking
20th.
Patreon time.
Yeah.
Sorry. $5. Yeah, 20 and 27th, yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
for the
I think
freebies.
I think what would be cool is like if for Patreon that those 2 weeks if we like um if we were able to like maybe like get some of our patrons picks and we discuss those, or maybe get like Cyrus and Quan or CC Armand or somebody their picks, and we talk about those, we debate those. That'd be really cool, right? We got a lot of like opinions in that Discord now, and I would love to see everybody's list.
Okay, maybe we can put a thing out where we put it on Patreon. We can do a fillable sheet. It
Yeah,
everyone can select. So now everyone is into this as well. So
yeah,
yeah,
that'd be fun. Let us
even
know what
$5. You know
let
what
us
I'm
know
saying?
how y'all feel in the chat, and let us know, if you know if you just pay the 5, you could just put your name down and we'll shout you out and everything, and you get all the benefits of that. But it'd be really cool. I would love
I'm
to see that. That's a
Go
cool
ahead.
angle to do
Absolutely.
your in list. But
Want to welcome our newest patrons. Hold on, which is funny as hell. So we have Stephanie. Shout out to you. Um, Thank you for becoming a patron.
shout out Stephanie.
Um, we have the. It was interesting. This is a very We had someone who came and then immediately deleted. Bob the Builder made his return to our Patreon and then
No,
quickly deleted it.
no, he didn't.
It's got to be a different. I think it's a different guy.
No,
No,
no, he didn't.
he signed up again. There's someone under the alias Bob the Builder.
Did he? Is he coming back just to? And it,
No, 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 no. He's not coming back.
for anyone who doesn't know, Bob the Builder was a particularly harrowing moment in our Discord times. This is when we first kind of kicked off the Discord and made it public to people on Patreon. Um, he came in and he was like actively argumentative at all times, more so than me. Actively argumentative at all times, debated everybody, said that nobody listened to our podcast, was a huge CM Punk mark at that time. This is around the time Punk came back to AEW.
Maybe he feels enlightened now. Maybe he feels stronger. He was like, I have to hear what they said on Punk.
Oh, brother. Well, you know
All
what?
right.
Listen to the show.
Hey man, listen to the show. Pay the 5, but nothing more than that.
Yeah.
And then we have Philippe. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but it's spelled like Philippe Chow, so I'm gonna make Philippe. Um,
Wow. Philippe and
and yeah,
Jules.
shout out to new patrons. I got actually a list of things to talk about this week.
Is
Is that
one of them
okay?
a CM Punk update? Or
One of them is a CM Punk update. How did you fucking know?
okay,
How
because
did you
I
know?
feel like I feel like 10 days removed, we need to talk about it.
How did you're in my brain? I literally have on my
Is it the
sheet.
first thing?
Let's talk about how we feel about CM Punk a week later.
Okay. Okay. I
Because
I'll tell
last
you
week was
this.
still pure shock. How did you feel WWE has done their social media?
They're killing it. They're killing it. I think that besides, all of the obvious reasons why he would go back there, money being, the largest benefactor there, I think the fact that they own all of the significant matches of his career is probably the biggest thing. And to me, Meelz, what was more like crazy to think about is that they had never released these matches before. So these are like world premiere ass matches
Well,
every
right. So you got to think like, I mean, YouTube was a thing definitely like 10 years ago, but I think we never moved at the speed of content like it was 10 years ago. I think WWE would like 10 years ago, it would be like they wouldn't even label shit correctly on the YouTube. Like
right.
it would be Natalia puts in sharpshooter. And it wouldn't have a date, wouldn't have Raw, wouldn't have SmackDown, wouldn't have anything. Like it was still very brand new to them. I think the page was still called WWE Fan Nation. Um, But now, I mean, they've got the best minds. I mean, you get a free match every day, and they're
Mhm.
doing this thing on their YouTube where they premiere a new Punk match every fucking day, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, let's just look at this. Let's look at this breakdown right now because I'm gonna try and like skip through all the other stuff because it's in between all the show recaps and stuff like that.
Right.
The unlikely story of CM Punk's career, which I watched while I was sick over the weekend. It's like an hour and 30-minute video of every single moment of his career. I got a couple of issues with some of it, like the skipping around that they do. I think the most significant skip that they do is that they completely gloss over the Triple H feud and completely gloss over the Ryback feud, which is I think is on purpose, is not
Did
to like
they gloss also over the world championship reign?
which one?
Like
Oh yeah, they don't show how
like
he lost
both of
it.
them.
Yeah, they don't. They show him winning them, never how he loses it. The only one they show that he loses is to The Rock. That's in fact the only L that they ever show that he takes. So, and I guess that's because him and Rock are cool. 1 million views. CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar, which is a match I haven't seen in years, which will also be considered a world premiere match. 3.2 million views right now on YouTube.
That's fire because I sat there and when it premiered, I was there.
I watched it like it was the first time, bro. The CM Punk versus John Cena undisputed title match, where Kevin Nash comes out. That got 597K, almost 2 million. His segment on Raw, 2.8 million right now on the YouTube. Let's go to the actual. Let's go to
Uh,
the
n-
actual
Tomorrow's premiere, CM Punk wins the ECW championship.
crazy. That it's
That
never been on there is insane.
never. They barely upload anything from ECW.
Like 6.4 million views for his return. I think the match they put up yesterday was the wasn't it, was it Elimination Chamber, or that was that 2 days ago?
I think
Um,
yesterday it was Elimination Chamber. I remember. Yes, it was Elimination Chamber. And then
almost hit
today
500,
they did CM Punk versus The Shield, which should be coming later today, I'm assuming.
which fits because I mean Seth's there, Roman's there. These are the people that he's had a lot of history with before he left. What struck me, and I'm just looking at all this in the CM Punk WWE thing. I think last week a lot of people looked at the statements that he made in the promo and said they came off as disingenuous and that they came off as fake. I think Mark Henry had something to say that I really agree with, and I really felt like like captured the moment from somebody that Mark Henry also knows. You know what I'm saying? Mark Henry says something to the effect of, and I don't know if you heard this. He says something to the effect of like, Punk, there's no way he like essentially, I'm distilling his words here. He's like, Punk, there's no way he didn't care or about what happened there because he kept talking about it. Like he always kept talking. It was almost like a relationship where somebody's heart got broken and they never really got over it. You know what I mean? And because they loved the place where they were at so much. And when you look at Meelz, the hour-long thing of that, there's also a thread on Reddit that I think I posted in the Discord of all of the Wrestling Observer comments about Punk throughout his 8-9 year tenure in WWE. One of them says if WWE signs him, they're going to make him a main event star. They're going to try and make him a main event star. And all of the things he had to overcome and all the things that happened, he really paved the way for what we see right now in terms of the KOs, to a certain extent how Daniel Bryan was treated afterwards, Seth Rollins, all that stuff. He kind of paved the way for that. Smaller guys,
I think he
alternative
definitely
guys.
walked through the fire so they wouldn't have to, in a
Exactly.
way, because
And you
he was doubted at every turn for his size, for the indie stigma, for his tattoos, for him not looking as presentable as like a Randy Orton or John Cena, who was there in the era. Um, and it's because he got to that point and he got to the point where he got in 2011, 2012, 2013 that it made it easier. So when Kevin Owens shows up in 2014,
mhm.
it's just like, okay, we know what we're gonna do with you. You know what I'm
we
saying?
know
Like
why fans we know why fans like you. We know why fans can't get enough of you, and there's some value there. And you look at where CM Punk came from. And again, I had never distilled into it. I lived all these moments as a huge fan of his in the early 2010s and even the 2000s. You look at all of these things that happened to him in his career. I absolutely believe what he was saying. He got a lot. He got a lot. You know what I mean? I think people have rewritten history to only the bad parts of his career, which was really that last year and a half when he came back after the Brock match or the Undertaker match on, right? Where it was just like, this isn't the same guy. He's clearly
The
hurt.
bad parts of his career. What do you mean by bad parts of his career? Like, what are
Well,
we defining as bad part?
the bad parts where it openly seemed as though he was tired of, just pretty much tired of being there. You know what I mean? Like tired of being in WWE. He was hurt. You could tell he was hurt. He had the mutton chops. He looked sick. He looked like he was just fed up with it. You know what I mean? Like, I think
Hmm.
people distill his WWE career to that. They never talk about like straight edge society stuff. They never talk about some of the great promos he had with Triple H. They never talk about some of the subversive things that he did throughout his tenure, especially in 2011, which they kind of show in that hour long thing. And I also watched another YouTube video that distilled all of the promos between him and
Well,
Triple
you
H.
were sick, huh?
I was really sick. I was watching it because I feel like I needed more context to maybe, if it wasn't disingenuous, why would he say that he's home in the first
I
place?
feel like can I tell you how I feel about how you feel?
Yeah,
I feel like you're still in shock. Or at least over the weekend you were still in shock. And I think there's part of it where, like what you definitely said, I feel like you're still trying to make sense of it, but luckily you have a trail of YouTube videos to kind of like put everything in perspective, right?
of
But I
course.
still
Yeah,
think you're still trying to make sense of like the moment of like how did we end up here? Because the story of how we ended up here from where we started is a crazy story.
it's fascinating. It's
It,
fascinating. Like
it's
the
one of one.
the video ends. Well, the hour long video, which I implore everyone to watch because there's some really cool moments in it. But the video ends with him coming back 10 years later. They don't show when he gets choke slammed through the table at Royal Rumble. It skips from like The Rock and
Yeah.
Taker
It's
all the
I
way
think
to
yeah.
he beats the Shield, and then it's him coming back. Like they don't
Yeah.
even they gloss over it because that's what WWE does. They're not going to talk about the negative. And I feel
But
like
the thing is, you don't have the exit on camera. You don't even have them mentioning the exit on camera.
right.
Like you have nothing for that. So it would be there's nothing like for it to end at the Royal Rumble. It just ends with him getting choke slammed by Kane, and there's no context to it. So I understand why they did that because from a narrative sense, one, the Shield thing is a very big thing, right? It's very
Mhm.
interesting how all three members of the Shield hate him. But it's also interesting that where the Shield was then and where they're at now, and where he was then and where he's at now.
Mhm.
That's a very important part that I think we're going to explore in 2024. Um,
And they're starting to dive into that. And we'll talk about that later. But I think he left a comment. Did you see the comment he left on the on WWE's IG?
oh, he left a comment on the IG. I was like, he's on YouTube leaving comments. This is
No, he
nuts.
said he left a comment on the tweet on the post about him returning. He left a comment saying spiritually still living in this moment, Saturday's moment, and looking forward to Friday. And again, I think we got to get to the other side of this, right?
Okay,
There are people that want him to fail right now. There are people
absolutely.
that look at this and they say this is completely fake. He's wrong. Da da da. I think goes back to what we said last week of him realizing the grass probably wasn't greener. I think that if AEW had went the way that he wanted it to, and had been the perfect job for him at that time, and I think our good friend Dom had the perfect example of this on his podcast last week. If you guys haven't checked that out, check out the Armchair Auteur on YouTube. He said that he had a job that he works at now that he used to work at before, he returned there. But the first time he was there, he left because he just thought it was the shittiest place ever, and it's the worst thing that he's ever been to. Goes to a new job and realized that the job sucks for the same reasons that he hated the last job at. And then when he
Hmm.
went to the new job, he realized how to navigate through whatever was going on. So that's politics. That's everything. And I think in Punk's state at least, he's a lot bigger stature than he was last time he was in WWE. So like he can navigate that well because they're gonna navigate it for him. He's not gonna have
Right.
to worry about the same pitfalls that he worried about, and the same arguments because they're not the same people there. But at the same time, you know, there's so many people that are like, how long is this gonna last? What's the countdown to it? WWE's themselves are playing into this. You know what I mean? Like they're playing into the, when is he gonna self destruct? I would like to remind people that he's only walked out on a company one time, once. He's only done it once. He was punching niggas the second time, but your mileage may vary on whose
Right.
fault that was. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? But I think that there's a lot of there is a lot of just distrust in what that is, and I think that they're smart to play on that, even though I don't necessarily think it's going to happen again.
I agree. I'm still interested to see where this goes. I'm really am. Hold on, I gotta answer the door because there's a package coming. Hold on.
It's probably the bomb from Tony Khan coming straight to your house. I'll just continue here. I think ultimately Punk can succeed there. I'm not going to say his attitude or his personality isn't going to be something that keeps him from being successful, but I think the company right now has a lot of interesting personalities. You got a company that has Roman Reigns, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, all of these people that they have to keep their egos in check, and they have to keep all these people happy. Drew McIntyre, you have to keep all these people
Right.
happy. Punk just being added to that, I don't think matters much because they probably have way more polarizing personalities in that locker room than CM Punk. But you never see it because there are so many people that honestly, not even to say that these people ain't men or women, they're not, they're probably scareder of Triple H or Vince McMahon than they are of a Tony Khan. Let's just be real.
Well, yeah,
That's
for
why they're not
sure.
gonna wall out. That's why they're not gonna wall out. That's why I feel like Punk's not gonna wall out. And I think, his comments at that scrum, I watched that again. His comments at that scrum in front of Tony's face was basically him saying, "You are not a businessman. You are not like," basically emasculating him, saying, "You're not like Vince. You're not like the people that I'm seeing." You know what I'm saying? Like that's what I took it as. And I think that I look at the "I'm home" thing, and yeah, I might still be in shock from that shit. I'm in shock that he's showing up at the America show on Friday.
Yeah, I was like tribute to the troops. Damn, Punk loves the troops.
He loved everything. He gonna be kissing babies for a while. But I think that I think it's crazy. But I also one thing I'm gonna say too before we get to the shows later, they're not overexposing him. There's no
No,
single speaks every single
no.
episode.
We were definitely like the fact he wasn't at Barclays. We were just like, when they showed he was coming at tribute to the troops next Friday, everyone booed.
They put in
It
the
was
cheer.
awesome.
They put in the cheer sound effect when they played it on the show.
We definitely booed. We were like, what the? No, we weren't that angry, but we definitely booed. But Cody was there, so it's okay. Um, I'm interested, kind of moving forward with CM Punk. How do we make this run feel natural to the character that he is, and is there a different character? Is there a next step in the evolution of CM Punk? I'm interested in that because I don't think we can necessarily tread the same water that we did the last time,
Mm.
because of how the WWE has changed so much since he's left. Also, we've seen the part-time star already. We've seen the novelty act. We've seen that, and I don't think we necessarily want that from Punk. But to be honest, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows what they want from Punk yet. I think they want him back in WWE, but I don't think we really know what we want yet out of him. We know that we want to feud with Seth and we want to feud with Roman, but I still what do those feuds look like? Not fully sure. Outside of like bitterness, not trying to like um I don't want it to be something AEW esque where the feud is built on the bitterness. I want to still be taking out of that element of like this very meta thing and involved in the story behind these two people. You know what I'm saying?
I think
So
for those two, it kind of has to be, but in between that, yes. I think with Seth, I'm not even sure why Seth don't like him, and I guess we'll get to that when we talk about the shows. But with Roman, yes,
yeah,
Roman, I wouldn't. WWE might have to pull the audio from that podcast. Actually, no, was that podcast taken down? Was it
it
taken off
was
the?
Ariel Wani. Was it for Sports Illustrated at the time? I
Oh,
think it might.
the podcast was for Colt Cabana when he was talking shit about Roman.
Oh no, they're never playing that shit again, man. That shit's been in
Bro,
the court of law.
oh yeah. Like I
That
was about
shit's
to
been in
say,
the court of law. They're never
it's
playing
gonna
that
be
ever again.
referenced.
We
It's
don't
gonna
even
be
get yeet anymore.
like shit, we gotta talk about that too. But no, I think that ultimately, it is a moment of great interest and change. The roster is unparalleled now. I think that I don't give a fuck what you say. Like this is a crazy roster. It's a
I
crazy roster.
agree.
Even if you just got Punk cutting promos, it's a crazy roster. And I think that there's a lot of things that on the horizon that people are liking, and I think that we're not even in Mania season proper yet, and we kind of see the wheels turning. And I think that that's really interesting. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about weekly shows.
I, I want the feeling, just kind of like wrap this up. I want the feeling in those feuds, the same feeling that Cody gives me in those feuds, where it could be about this nigga jumped to another company and now he coming back and licking all types of boots. Um, but realistically, it's more about the competition. I think the feud between CM Punk and Seth Rollins is going to be who is truly the best in the world.
Mhm.
Um, Roman definitely gonna have his time. You're gonna have his make Roman look strong, bar.
Mhm.
He's gonna have that. They're just gonna be a promo with mics. There's gonna be a promo with Paul Heyman to kick it off. Then there's gonna be the promo with Roman Reigns, and it's going to be a lot of different. It's gonna be fun, but I'm interested to see where this goes. I want to see where it goes beyond that. I would love to see him feud with other people, but those are just the two big red check marks that we got to get through for sure.
Yep.
Um, Next bit of news I have that actually comes in thing in conjunction with this news that was actually broke on our Patreon last week. So if you paid the $5, you heard the breaking news as we heard it and literally read the report. Brian
Officer
Danielson
Ryan.
Brian Danielson, part of CM Punk's firing committee in AEW, was reported by Sean Ross Sapp for Fightful last week that Brian Danielson was part of the committee that indeed fired CM Punk. It has led to fans feeling various types of ways about it. Um, the probably the best question I've heard about this is why do we know this? But um, the follow up question to me, I'll give my personal stance on this. If I was Brian and I was approached with that position, I wouldn't do it. Um, I think I don't know personally the code for wrestlers. I know the code as like people that we work with and stuff, everyone who's just trying to make a living, trying to make a family and stuff like that. Leave that to people that's their job to do this. Um, and there should be more than enough people in that company whose job it is to do this. I personally, if I was Brian, wouldn't have agreed to do this. It feels,
It's Stoogie.
yeah, it feels a little bit stoogey. Um, it feels a little bit like there's a like a light air favoritism when it comes to that. Um, but also, I feel like for as long as CM Punk, if I'd known someone for 20 years and I know they're an asshole, I'm still not doing it because of the relationship I've had with them over the last 20 years. To me, that supersedes the relationship I have with the company that I work for. Um, I'm not sure. Maybe, I feel like Brian has felt empowered at various points being on the, some sort of creative committee, helping training people. Kind of like his foot is truly imprinted in AEW in various different ways. He's standing next to Tony Khan as they announce the Continental Classic, which he's featured in, which again makes no sense to me. It looks like
He
a.
is he is too ingrained into these
I think
shows
so.
in a way that whereas he may have been protected in this company before and kind of like in a part-time sense where he didn't really wrestle a lot, I'm seeing too much of him at this point. And
Yeah,
I think it might be a hindrance to his health at this point. And we've seen that already this year, but also a hindrance to like the allure and aura of his character. Whereas like we're
and
seeing
maybe
like
him as a person.
yeah. And I was like, I don't want to like judge him as a person based off of this. Like he knows Punk. He, you know, who knows what
But that
he else.
wasn't, but yeah, but this isn't like a character move. That's why I'm like
Yeah, yeah.
more so judge as a person. This is like an actual like this is Brian Danielson doing this as the when he's standing next to Tony Khan, he's not standing at announcing the Continental Classic. He's not standing there really as Brian Danielson the character because Brian Danielson the character only wants to compete. He's not standing there like, oh, I want to, helping announce a Continental Classic. He's standing as Brian Danielson, whatever position he holds at AEW. To be honest with you, I'm sure it's various positions, but I feel like there is a reason. First of all, there's probably a really good reason Moxley isn't doing it, or Chris Jericho, or any of those other people. It just really seems weird. You know what I'm saying? And
I don't feel like Moxley even would care for it, but I also feel like Moxley contributes to BS back there in different ways that we don't know about.
yeah, right. But I don't think he's like if you ask him to be on the committee, well, he couldn't because I think there's a conflict of interest. I think there's multiple people with a conflict of interest, but
Company is a conflict of interest, Meelz.
yeah, but I wouldn't have done that. I feel like that's kind of I'm not here to call him officer. I'm not here to call him cop, but I feel like that's wild, stoogey, and I think I would really have to look hard at my relationship with him. Now, CM Punk and Bryan, they probably don't even have a relationship. It's more so based on respect and that they've worked together for a long time. But I would really like question the integrity of this person. Um, to say like, why would you accept doing this? Because
And
I feel like if it was on the other shoe, I don't think Punk
yeah.
would do that to him.
I don't think Punk would have did it, but I mean, you never know. But I think that not Punk's, but Danielson's explanation of it when you're just like, I was just part of one person and a bunch of lawyers, and I'm just like, yeah, you're kind of reducing it a little bit, minimizing your role there because it's like you're the face of the wrestlers in that room. You know what I mean? And I think that's why you were mentioned in that report. It was like it's not like QT Marshall, you know what I'm saying, or any who
But it's
left
not
any.
even like yeah, it's not even like fucking the other Kelvin Sullivan or the Mega Ron, Mega Con, Mega
Like it starts with the P. I don't want to mispronounce her name, but
okay.
um,
But yeah, it's not like they were mentioned. It was you.
yeah, you
And
were
you
the
had the quote.
you were the guy, that was at fault here, not at fault, but like Punk was the guy at fault, but like you were the guy that they're. I think they need to talk to Fightful about how they presented it. You know what I'm saying? You don't just the way it was presented, and then we talk about the way things are taken earlier in the show. It's gonna be taken a certain way, even if you weren't a big deal in it, and now you're looked at as the person who ejected him out the company. Even if you were just the person that said, "Yeah, I think it's a good idea." And but I think what was the most interesting about it, the most weird about it, was the timing of the tweet that he put out. That was the exact same quote that he sent out to the wrestlers. Like,
That's nasty.
there's no way you can tell me because the thing is, and we didn't really speak about this last week. AEW was doing a lot of preemptive stuff before Punk cut that promo on Monday night 2 weeks ago. They were doing a lot of preemptive. I love AEW. This is they saved my life when I had nothing. Bryan does that tweet where AEW is strong. All of that shit, right? Punk says nothing about them. This story comes out. It is blown up in their face because they tried to play a move, and Punk, and to probably some extent WWE, they skirted them. They went to the left when they went to the right. Let's just be real here. Like, it didn't happen the way that they thought it would. He didn't talk shit about them. And now they look, and now Bryan is left holding the bag because they were, they I think that they thought, in all honesty, Punk will come out and say, these people
Punk
screwed
will
me over.
come out and talk about one bill, Phil, and,
Yeah.
and
He
all
will come
types of
out,
other stuff.
imaginary bucks or fake bucks or whatever the hell, fake eye patch, whatever the fuck he wants to talk about.
Right.
And they thought that they'd be like, well, this is actually what we had to do. And it didn't happen that way. And I think Punk is probably sitting back laughing at that shit while he's spiritually still in the moment of Saturday and Monday and Friday.
It's just disappointing. But
Here's
to
the
be
thing. I think that Punk knows how they think and how they work. And that to me is the largest disadvantage that AEW has in trying to look like the quote good ones in this situation from a guy that physically assaulted employees twice. Like he's got the upper hand on them because he knows how they think.
it's crazy. First of all, in the report, words mean things. That's all I'll say about that. You can't say you can't say he wasn't the head of the committee when you really literally put that in the report. But another thing is just like back to kind of like the main thing. It was just it's just kind of like it's disappointing how they go about it. I truly do feel like they thought it was going to be worse. I think they thought he was going to really go in. He did not. I think all parties should just kind of like move on. It was an interesting report, the interesting the timing, but it definitely backfired. It makes people look at Bryan Danielson again, the person. People respect the wrestler, but it really does make them look at the person kind of sideways. And then also just like I think for Tony Khan, even asking Bryan, it does no favor for him. And it is what it is. Speaking of no favors from AEW, QT Marshall has announced he's leaving AEW. The Hardys are currently not feeling their creative direction in AEW. So I want to ask, what's in the water?
Discontent. But hey, and again, this also goes back to CM Punk and the reality of the situation, that the ripple effect of him leaving that company the way that he did. I thought the problem was gone. I thought the locker room cancer was gone, Meelz. I thought that when he left, Adam Copeland would come in and everything would be all better. And it doesn't seem to be the case. And I think that what's happening there is that, and we're seeing it right now, the company is changing before our eyes, and it's basing its success on the success of three or four different stars here. None of them happen to be the elite. It's MJF, it's Bryan, it's Swerve, and I guess the fourth one would be what, Orange Cassidy. Those are like the kind of the top four that they're kind of building around.
Yeah.
It's seeming to be that those are the guys that they're trying to get to resonate and try again with this crowd. I don't know if it's like, gonna, I mean, that's working for them, but they, their fans, their diehards love anything that they do. You know what I'm saying? So it's like what they could tell me that fucking Warhorse, JP, whatever his name was, is the biggest thing ever. And I'm like, okay, this is the next big thing they're gonna say is
Yeah. That's why people aren't really I respect people who like again, people like Swerve's this big star. But I respect people who say, I will wait till I see it. Because they've done this guy is the next big star a couple times. And we've seen Wardlow um, and his trajectory. We've
yeah,
seen the firm um, and their downward trajectory. I'm gonna blame Punk for that, but it is what it is. It was gonna suck anyway.
yeah.
But we've seen Ricky Starks have moments, and then now look at his trajectory. Um, the benefit for Swerve is he knows someone who works in creative, so um, more than likely, even if it goes bad for him, it won't go too bad. There'll always be something for him, but the realistically is like this show can't create new stars, and I think one, I think the Hardys discontent and their like public discontent points to this Wednesday on Dynamite. The main event of Dynamite this Wednesday in Montreal Jules, I hope I did that right. Is Edge versus Christian. And the Hardys, Matt Hardy, who's been there for at least 3 years at this point, Jeff Hardy, who I think is like, we're approaching a year. No, we're approaching like maybe, I think he came this year, right? When did
It was
he
last year.
leave? Okay, he left it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's definitely over a year. It's approaching 2 years, if anything. Um, and they have nothing to show for it. And of course, now AEW fans are turning against them, calling Jeff all types of drunks and junkies and shit. Um, and they call him Matt Hardy. They're saying all the things that we've said before he came to WWE. Walks like, he got a doo doo and stuff.
But
Um,
here's my thing though. You notice that it's only acts that are like WWE adjacent or Codyverse adjacent. So it looks like it's like AEW diehard, diehards versus WWE guys. I mean, Ricky Starks is already pissed off Edge. You know what I'm saying? It's like it seems to be a growing discontent with the amount of people that he signed that are not doing anything. There was also a story that came out, Meelz, that Miro doesn't have anything to do because he's infamously claimed he doesn't want to take jobs to anybody. Oh God, here
I
what are you
feel
gonna say?
one.
What are you
No,
gonna
no,
say
no.
about
I'm not
Miro?
gonna. No, I'm not. I'll save it for Patreon. But no, I think creatively the show's been bankrupt anyway. So for them to come up with anything actually creative for mid card acts would be funny. And I think Tony Khan has the pen. I'm not sure how much they're booking all this other stuff like that, but the benefit, I think I think there's still value in the Hardys, right?
Yeah,
Just like there's value with Sting. Um, and they've used Sting in a way that presented it with a greater value than I think. Actually, I don't know. WWE might be on par. WWE did something different by not showcasing the 62-year-old as much as they did, but
having him job all the time.
yeah. Whereas AEW, I don't think he's actually lost in AEW, which is nuts. But there's value in these big names that you actually sign. There's value with the Hardys, as much they're still a quintessential tag team of the 21st century. Like, they are a big name. While they can't work to the extent that they did, you knew they couldn't when you hired them.
Yeah.
These things ain't just become old. They've been old forever. You know what I'm saying? They ain't just become old out of nowhere. You signed them because you wanted a good flavor, maybe someone in your ear, maybe a Chris Jericho or someone, who's working both sides. He's like, I can get you the bag, but also we can also get the Hardys in AEW. Maybe he's working both sides. Maybe you get to cut off the top. Who knows? But it's yeah. I'm just like, I don't know what you expected the Hardys. I don't know what you expected at all.
He wanted
um,
them. He wanted them so that no one else could have them. You know what I'm saying?
he
And
wanted them for a certain thing, which was a match against the Bucks. And that time, but he had nothing penciled afterwards. That's really what it is. He doesn't have a long-term plan for most of these people that he hire.
nope.
I think the plan for Will Ospreay is to make it to All In. I think that's it. Maybe he has some plans afterward. He probably actually does have some long-term plans for him. But realistically, like Ricky Starks, there's no long-term plans for. Most of the other people on the show, there's no long-term plans for. And to be honest with you, it's not foreign because even the same thing happens in WWE from time to time, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I look at Bobby Lashley on SmackDown, I was like, I don't know what the fuck the long-term plan is for these people.
The plan that they got for him is not the plan the fans want. That is
Right.
what I saw on on Friday, and I think they need to eject Cito because whatever the fuck they're trying to do.
People love Bobby. That's just it. And I remember I was talking to Carlos because we were talking about like why he was getting cheered, right? And I'm just like, people liked him because he's just started showing up and beating people up. And
Yeah.
that's what a guy that looks like him should do. And he just started beating people up. And he did it again this week. And people loved it. Shout out to Pete Dunne. Sorry that you had to go through that, or
beating
Butch
up
rather.
beating up nerds. Like that's literally all you had to do. Like beat up nerds, and then and you
Yeah.
but I
But
mean, it's. the QT Marshall quote that stood out to me was that he said basically AEW was going in a direction that was not story based anymore, and I think that that's telling because I mean
I
AEW
mean,
has no
telling
stories.
we've been telling this for months or years.
They haven't had any stories for a while, so you know
There's
I
one story. I mean, there's a couple stories going on, but it's really, you have too much talent. You just do. That's really the short end of it. You can't write for everybody. And I think that's the most part. Like, again, like, great. There's no thing for the Hardys. Hardys shouldn't be there. Like, there's no stories. Who else is claiming that there's no stories for them or something along those lines? They shouldn't be there either. Listen, the bunny, shout out to the bunny. I haven't seen a story with the bunny. The bunny left. And
yeah
QT Marshall is also leaving. And I don't think they'll be alone in leaving because it seems like the priority. Just go. Sometimes you need to, as a wise man once said, sometimes you need to leave to make them see what they missed out, and then you come back. That wise man was Drew McIntyre. Um, we'll talk about on Patreon this week. I have one last bit of news before we head over to the Patreon side. Um, Free agent Okada. What are your thoughts?
I'm not falling for it. Leave me alone.
He's staying home.
Yeah, I'm not stupid. Leave me alone. I'm not falling for it. Get
There's
out of
no
my face.
WWE Okada.
No,
There's no Rainmaker Okada.
no.
There's no damn fuck the Miz needs an opponent for WrestleMania. He's
I'm not
calling
falling
out
for it.
someone. He's doing a
Nor should,
worldwide open challenge.
nor should you. Leave me alone. I'm not falling for this shit. He's not coming. He's not coming. Why? What is wrong
They
with
said his wife is a big deal in Japan, so why would he leave?
whatever that means? I don't care. He's not coming. You're a big star there. She's not a big star to me. Leave me alone. Me and my family. He's not coming. Well, I don't even know why you report this. They do it every single year. They never. They always
His
do this. I
contract's
think
up.
New Japan needs to stop signing these people to like these Lego contracts, where it's basically like, oh,
We're at the same time of the year every year.
every single year. I'm like, nigga, this isn't like Christmas and New Year's. Like, you need to sign them to longer contracts so that they won't do this. Like so people can stop getting excited about this shit. Like, leave us alone. I'm not falling for it. Go to hell. That is my comment. I don't even want to speak
I'm
on it.
re-
That's my comment on it.
I'm reading this Kevin Sullivan news. Um, that apparently Mike Mansouri made the call to fire him.
The guy they hired from
Does it,
WWE.
yeah. And he said they said according to Observer, in fact, Sullivan was said to have built the entire AEW post production team based in Nashville and was instrumental in putting together video packages, vignettes, and non-televised programming for YouTube. Meltzer report added that there are a lot of questions going around regarding the exact reason for Sullivan's dismissal and whether the decision was just a reflection of the changes AEW has been undergoing.
Yes. Yeah.
Dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun-dun. That's just the way it is. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. Things will
Things
never
will
be the
never be the same.
same.
Hey, this is
Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun. That's
y'all
just the way
niggas
it
better be
is.
scared in that company, bro. I saw
Oh
somebody
yeah.
say ask Punk about the layoffs. I'm like, nigga, you know he's been around for many spring cleaning WWE releases, right? He's been around for all of them. The only thing the AEW niggas ain't been around for is any of them. So
Yeah.
they should be
It's
getting on
wild that
Bryan.
someone got fired and they were like, what's going on here? People don't get fired here. What's going
They
on?
said, wait,
What's really
what?
going on?
What?
It's
Fired?
different.
Nah, nah, nah.
They
My nigga ain't get fired, bro.
they moving different here. All right, time for me to go. You know it's time for me to go. It's time for me to go. Let
Hey,
me
it's a
update my
wrap.
LinkedIn.
It's a wrap for niggas. Hey, thank you guys for listening. We're gonna go over to Patreon, talk about this week's shows. Don't have Patreon, of course. You know how to do it. You know what buttons to click. Next week, what are we gonna talk about next week? It's gonna be a weird week because I don't think there's a SmackDown next week. I think SmackDown's gone next week.
I don't know. I feel like we'll figure it out next week. We can talk
Yeah,
about SmackDown this week.
yeah, we can. But I'm just saying, it's
Next
gonna
week.
be
Yeah.
like the schedule's gonna get lighter, which is fine for us. It's good for us because we can just talk
Yeah,
about other
yeah. So
shit.
next week will probably be our last time talking about like outright shows, and then the following 2 weeks will be about the year end stuff. You'll also get year-end contents, hopefully starting next week,
Yep.
on our YouTube. So make sure you guys subscribe to our YouTube. Also, we're working on some Instagram stuff as well. So make sure you follow our Instagram as well. And yeah, listen, pay the $5 because the show's gonna continue over there. So the party's still rocking. After the party is the after party, and so that's where we're heading to on Patreon. Thank you
Yep.
guys for tuning in. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Peace out, y'all.